Members, I rise in support of SB 540. Recent amendments are very problematic. However, I believe the status quo is not an option for the energy markets. And I want to thank the chair of the Energy Committee and also the senator from Los Angeles. We've been working together on this issue. Without the willingness to work with out-of-state partners, people will leave the current markets and making energy more expensive for our residents as well as less reliable. California cannot afford to be isolated from the rest of the West. In fact, when you look at who's supporting this bill, again, it's a work in progress, and I know I have a commitment from the chair as well as the senator from Los Angeles. They're going to work out on some of these problems. But when you look at this strong coalition, I haven't seen a coalition like this in a long time. And I've been on Energy Committee going back 13, 14, 15 years ago. And you see business is on board with this bill. You see the Chamber of Commerce is on board with this bill. You see that labor is on board with this bill because everybody understands status quo is not an option. We need to get this fixed. We need to move forward. And we need to make sure energy is reliable for all California residents. This is not a great bill at this point. Very problematic. A lot of things are problematic. But I have faith in the chair of the energy that he's going to work it out and make sure we get a big, beautiful bill by the time it comes back to the Senate. So thank you. Urge your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. This is a hard bill. This is a very hard bill because this is one of those bills where there's a clash of interests that is very difficult to reconcile. I'm confident in the authors, the senator from Los Angeles and the senator from Menlo Park. I have confidence in their diligence, I have confidence in their expertise, and especially have confidence in their interest in protecting California's interests, not just in terms of our economic interests, but also our values with respect to climate change. I know you both believe in climate change. Not sure everyone here believes in climate change, but I know you believe in climate change, and you believe in protecting California, both its economic interests as well as its environmental and other interests. Here's the challenge. The challenge is that once we're in, it may be very difficult to leave, either legally or practically, because we become so reliant on the grid. And it also vests California in a place where potentially the administration, the current administration, can wreak havoc on California. And while I have confidence in the senator from Los Angeles and confidence in the senator from Menlo Park, I do not have confidence in the folks in Washington, D.C. I do not have confidence in the folks in Washington, D.C. that they share our values. And so thus there are guardrails that have been placed in the bill. Having said that, I expect that as this bill, should it move forward, and I expect it to do so, is going to see great changes in the Assembly. I expect that when the bill comes back to us, that those concerns, the risks and the benefits will be weighed, the risks will be mitigated so that California is not ever held hostage, either economically or by a clash of values or by practicality, and that the authors of this bill will create a mechanism, will create a system, will create a grid that benefits both our economic values as well as our other societal values. And for those reasons, I'm going to support the bill. And I thank both of you for all your effort in this regard. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Well, it sounds like we have a lot of the same themes here, which is that we all understand the really lofty and important goals of making sure that California is in a robust and integrated system that takes advantage of all that the West can provide, both in terms of energy generation and also sharing burden and load, especially during those times when we've got strains on our system. So there's a lot of potential here. And I do want to echo all of the praise for the authors, the member from San Fernando Valley and from Menlo Park, for the incredible work they put in. This has been very difficult. I think, part of the challenge for me is one of the issues, I voted for this in Energy Committee. One of the concerns that I raised at the time and in Judiciary was about the question of legislative engagement in the process. And one suggestion was the possibility of allowing for some sort of supermajority vote in the legislature that could, where we'd have some sort of fail-safe where the legislature could weigh in, because if we had it all in the PUC, that's a governor-dominated decision-making process. Somehow, out of all of this came this bizarre panel suggestion, which puts the decision in these five, in the hands of these five people, including the two energy chairs from the legislature, which is not an environmental portfolio, obviously very environmentally adjacent. It was a very curious decision. I really am still trying to understand through many conversations how this came to be, and quite frankly, I think it's a bad direction that the bill's taken. So I want to get a better sense. I think so many people, we're hearing concerns expressed about that from both sides of the aisle. We want meaningful opportunity for the legislature to have input and oversight over this process and not just hand this over to governor-dominated agencies. But this didn't seem to be the right way to do it. And so I'm certainly interested in it sounds as though the author will answer that particular dilemma in his close. So I'll wait to hear that as I determine what I'm going to do on this. But I see the goals. I want to support the goals. But I'm concerned about some of the way that this bill has, the direction this bill has gone.
Senator.
I want to thank both of the main authors of this bill. I appreciate the vision of this bill as we talk about energy and going bigger. However, I voted on this in Energy Committee out of respect for the chair, but I also have been consistently opposed to several items. Even with the amendments, I find it concerning that we're not going to bring it back to the legislature to have a full picture of what this regional organization will actually look like. A 5-member council is not enough. Having the Attorney General, the President of the PUC, and the 2 chairs of energy from the Senate and the Assembly to focus on a few small things is concerning. If it is a lot of confidence that we have in regional organization, the fact that it won't impact the RPS and won't take away green jobs and won't force Californians to subsidize an organization they no longer have control over, then we should be able to review the facts once we have more concrete evidence. And I personally believe that this proposal promises too much with very little certainty. And as we talk about reining in PG&E, and having more discretion and oversight and accountability when it relates to the PUC in our own backyard, what makes us think we'll do any better with an unknown out-of-state entity that is no longer mandated to protect California's interests solely? That is my concern. The other concern that I deeply have is creating larger monopolies. And that is, I think, one of the biggest concerns I have as it relates to how large PG&E has become. And PG&E is in my district, so I tend to refer to it a lot more. And how it's going to apply in this aspect. So, for example, consolidated control over the grid. That is a concern that we should all have. How do we ensure that we're nimble, that we can operate efficiently, and much more? While this can improve coordination and efficiency, it can also create centralized authority over key decisions like transmission, planning, resource procurement, and much more, including across community choice aggregators and local governments, which should have a say in how things operate. As well as it offers a threat to public oversight. If it's dominated by large private utilities or unaccountable boards, public interest goals such as affordability, clean energy targets, or labor protections may take a back seat. And that's a deep concern I have. As well as market power and price manipulation. We have seen the costs of electricity skyrocket with no ability to rein it back in. No ability to say that's too much, with full focus on shareholders and basically profit. And I'm concerned also of the progress we have made in this state that is not necessarily shared by the other states, and diluting our advances when we're talking about this. So I have a lot of concerns about this bill. I think that a lot of my answers in multiple, not only hearings, but committees have gone unanswered. There's a lot of stakeholders that also have amendments and suggestions that have not been even discussed with those stakeholders. And so I do not feel confident in this particular proposal. I think that in a time when we're talking about affordability regarding energy, in our state of California, that is where we should focus first and foremost. If we would like to partner with them in the future and let other states take the lead on that particular effort and investment, we should see how far they go with it without California also trying to tackle two beasts. One, set something brand new up, and two, tackle the issues that Californians care about. So with that, I will respectfully be opposing this bill. Thank you.
Senator Caballero, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to make this brief because I think a lot has already been said, but I heard this bill, I think, 3 times. One was at just an informational hearing, and then twice in committee. And I'm going to support the bill. We'll start off with that. But I also am in favor of regionalism because I think our weather patterns and the energy that we can create regionally is diverse enough so it'll benefit California. But there are a couple of things that I'm concerned about. One is that I remember distinctly the energy crisis back in the day when we did not have enough energy and we had to go out to the market and buy it, and we spent millions of dollars trying to provide energy for California. And so I want us to be prudent about how we set up a regional organization to make sure we're looking out for the ratepayers of California. So it's the ratepayers as well as the employee protections that are going to be important. And then when I heard this in hearing, what I was very specific about was the opportunity for us to have off ramps as this gets produced, because we don't have enough information about what it's going to look like. There has to be an off-ramp. There will be a new governor that will inherit whatever we pass out of this legislature, and there will be new legislators as well. And we don't want to burden them with something that doesn't work because we're too trusting, if you will. And so I'm concerned about that. And finally, I've harped on this floor and when I was in the Assembly as well about how our RPS system does not treat all green energy the same. And if we're going to enter into an agreement with other states about their green energy, then I think ours has to make sense. And I've got some irrigation districts that create energy that don't get to count it as part of the RPS, and I think that needs to be fixed. And finally, I do think we need off-ramps, and the committee is one way to get there, but I think this legislature should be more engaged as well. So thank you very much, Mr. President, and I urge your support because this is an important issue for our state.
Thank you, Senator. Pro Tem Senator McGuire.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I will be brief. First of all, I stand in support of SB 540. I want to take a moment to say thank you to many members in this chamber for their work on this bill. To the author, thank you. To the joint author, thank you. I'd like to specifically talk about the legislative authority and oversight. It is absolutely important that we move forward with this committee. Few reasons why. Number one, the success of the program needs to have those who approve it as part of the authorizing body. 2, it's going to protect ratepayers long term. 3, it will also assist in protecting our carbon targets and climate goals as we move forward. I also know any issue like this is going to evolve. Anything big that comes through the legislature, it's going to evolve, and I know that the author is absolutely committed to continue to work with all sides, and we respectfully ask for an aye vote.